get into Laguna Seca, I mean, that was
Well,
some really that
yeah,
was
I was going to say, I think the only bigger show that I saw on TV over the weekend from Laguna Seca was my Steelers playing football on Sunday. And
that
so
was
I'm
tough.
glad that we don't have to get into that. We can talk about the other show that was Laguna Seca, of course, won by Scott Dixon. You had Felix Rosenquist going out in style on the pole. What is it, his third of the year?
Yeah, he's been on pole a lot this year.
Yeah.
He's done a great job.
Third of the year, his final race in the Arrow McLaren papaya and orange colors. But then, yeah, man, like you said, I mean, just absolute chaos Sunday afternoon there out in California.
Yeah, I mean, I was there. I had a nice couple meetings myself for the future. Had a few different things going on that I thought was really positive. For my outlook on everything, which I think is good. And we'll obviously get into that as we go here in these off-season episodes. But I was very happy with how the weekend went. Qualifying was very interesting. Several people just struggling, people going off the track. I would say I saw more people go off in practice and qualifying than I think I've ever seen in IndyCar sessions. The drivers were telling me that offline it's just very bad. You go from having grip to complete lack of grip. Which this new surface was new to everyone, so it's a challenge. But I mean, you just saw the amount of mistakes that were possible, and you saw how people are just pushing so incredibly hard to finish off this season strong.
Mhm.
Um, and there was one moment in qualifying that was very interesting. Saw the well, I won't mention it, but there was a certain time where I was like, oh, that's interesting, haha. But pick whatever moment you want yourself out of that one. But it was fascinating to see the track record break. Christian Lundgaard owns the track record now, which is not too surprising. Felix Rosenquist on the pole, though, was something that I thought was interesting. I mean, him and not Pato or not Rossi. I mean, he has been a qualifying like absolute titan this year, like the willpower of the McLaren team.
Yeah.
So great farewell for him. But yeah, when we get into that race, I mean, I actually didn't stay for the race. Like I flew to LA before the race because for me it's still hard to watch the race. I don't need to be there. Everyone's busy.
Sure.
I've had my meetings already. Um, but I obviously was able to watch a bit of it, most of it, and I had several friends texting me like chaos or all these very exciting and crazy adjectives. But when a track like that it's so hard to overtake, right? Because the straights are so short,
Mhm.
and by going so fast, the cars, you know, there's not enough time to build momentum for those overtaking maneuvers, right? So all of the overtaking maneuvers like that you saw were super last minute, super aggressive, super late. But as race car drivers, you have to do it. But I guess in this scenario, I was very surprised at the like just lack of thought that went into a lot of different moves. Now there were several people that were predictable, having those, throwing those moves. But the start was one of those things that it wasn't necessarily anyone's, massive stupidity. Like if you look at that, it's just a ton of cars packed into a small space. And if you have one that
Nowhere to
hits
go.
another,
Yeah.
not a lot of other people can go other places. And it was just the worst case scenario. So that was a real shame to see. But I mean, other than that, I mean, you could get into every different incident and you look at like, that was just a lot of it was silly. There was a lot of penalties being handed out as well, which I guess we have called for. Like if there
I
is
was
an
saying, they
aggressive,
listening to Speed Street because we
they are
just
listening to the show, yeah, maybe. Like I do agree with penalizing people for doing dumb stuff. Like that is completely like what stewards are for. Like because you're supposed to limit that stupidity, right? Like we are fully capable of wrecking each other every corner if we wanted to, right? But we also want to be able to continue the race, and we're very selfish, so we want to be able to get a good result for ourselves, even though we might have knocked someone off the track. So to see the stewards, doing that, I do commend them for that. I would say there are some things still that like you have to be consistent about. Like, if you're going to penalize everyone at the last race, you better be making sure to penalize them at the first race next year too. You know what I mean? Scott Dixon was still very much up in arms about the stewards. Like, man, his comments are just like a wild.
And it's
But
so funny because he's winning races and he's still just so pissed, you know?
oh my gosh, I know it's incredible. But like, and it's just how it goes. Like, I think you saw. I knew by lap maybe 15, I was like, Scott Dixon's going to win this race. And it's crazy to see how these strategies play out. Because again, with that many yellows and like you saw such a, so many cars out of the race, so many cars, 20, 30 laps down because they're trying to fight for the leader circle spots. The restarts were just a complete shamble. I don't know. I think there was more just more lack of thought than I expected, I would say. But I guess that's just the era that we're in now. I do hope we clean it up because I do believe we put on a better show than that.
Well, what percentage would you hand out to that being the cause of it's the last race, people trying to make hay where they can, when they can, and also the standard, the precedent that has been set by the stewards throughout the season? Like, what percentage lies where with those two things of why people were making those kind of decisions, you think?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I think it could be anywhere from 50-50 to I don't know, something similar because it's both, right? Like, if people get away with things, you're going to keep doing it, right? Like, that's just kind of human nature. And I think to see penalties handed out, that's good. But again, if you don't know what you're really going to get one for, then you're just going to keep doing whatever you're going to try to do. But yeah, there was when you think about it, there's cars fighting for a championship within a championship, the top 22 in the leader circle, right? So you had
Football's back in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets.
Nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game this September. Get in on the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Download the app now and use code SPEEDSTREET to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code SPEEDSTREET. The crown is yours.
Both Junko's cars having a very, very good race for a while. You had, Devlin DeFrancesco was up front at one point, and he's one of those guys that was fighting for the top 22. But again, he threw his car into David Malukas at one point that was just like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, goodness gracious, that was its own yikes moment in itself. But yeah, there was a lot there that I think is about a 50-50. Like, yes, it's the last race of the season, Joey, but it's also, everyone was pretty comfortable getting away with stuff, but maybe now a precedent was set. Like, all right, we see what's been going on here. We need to make some changes.
Yeah, it's interesting going into the offseason with that being the last taste in your mouth, because then, like you said, you go into 2024 and you feel kind of like there's just a bunch of unknowns in a way. You don't know what you're going to get when you're out there. You don't know what you're going to get as a viewer. You don't know what you're going to get as a driver. And you're going into, I guess, now the Thermal Club, even though it's going to be an exhibition, kind of just being like, all right, we'll try this. This is what was flying. This is what I'm under the impression of, and it could be different this year. Totally.